So look, we obviously know we're going through a bit of a pullback right now. I wouldn't call it a bear market, but the One Piece TCG market is definitely kind of cooled off a little bit, and there's just been a lot of negativity, a lot of anxiety about what's going on. And I thought in today's video, guys, we would kind of just go over a couple of things. I wanted to instill a bit of hopium, possibly reignite your conviction again, which, by the way, you should always keep alive and well, because listen, the One Piece is real, okay? Look what Oda just did. You know, if you didn't hear, he just dropped the One Piece into the ocean. I don't really want to show a whole lot of this because of copyright and stuff, but if you know, you know. And obviously this is a big marketing thing, but supposedly Oda wrote the One Piece, like the ending of One Piece, put it in some kind of treasure chest, and essentially dropped it in the ocean, okay? Saying the One Piece is real, which, you know, exciting, fun marketing stuff, and the community's lost their minds going after this. And if I'm being really honest with you, I kind of hope Oda just put like a, you know, middle finger in there, because, man, you know, we don't want to know what the One Piece is yet. But Oda and like their marketing team did this because they recently surpassed 600 million copies, which is incredible. I'm pretty sure this beats Superman at this point, if not is about to surpass him, which is crazy because Superman, if you didn't know, has been like prolific in the superhero world, in the comic world forever, and the fact that One Piece is basically surpassing that is just phenomenal. But guys, listen, there's so much going on with the One Piece TCG right now, and in the One Piece community in general, guys. We've got the live action literally coming out in a couple of days, which is super exciting. And for people who think that the live action is garbage, I really, really recommend you watch it. I've been watching One Piece since I was a kid. I think they're doing a good job with the live action. The live action's fun, it's different. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, okay? And Oda oversees it as well, so, you know, if you got a problem with it, you got a problem with Oda. So, but I do really think, you know, there's a lot of exciting things to come. Not to mention the fact that the animation is coming back as well, like the show. And we're going into the next phase of the One Piece story, which is Elbaf, the next arc. And no spoilers, but it's going to be crazy. So there's just so much hype coming up right now, and I think it's really going to help the One Piece TCG market. Now, obviously, seeing a pullback is healthy. When you see a pullback in a market, you know things are kind of coming back to normal again. You know, we see this in so many different types of markets. You see it in the S&P, you see it in crypto, you see it in gold, you see it in silver. You know, people were talking about gold and silver, how it was blowing up, and now we've seen it rescind a bit. Now, gold is a whole other thing. I don't really want to talk about that right now because there's a lot of things going on in the world. But the point is that markets naturally do this. There's a pattern in economics and investing and stuff that you pick up over the years that really helps you align yourself to it. And, you know, the One Piece TCG is no different, guys. This is obviously a market. These cards are worth money. And seeing a bit of a pullback is a good thing because, listen, I want to buy plenty of cards that I couldn't afford before. Now, I've been looking at TCG Player, and it's not really been doing a great job at showing the pullback. But, I mean, hey, look at this right here. I mean, we see a massive dump for the Gold Roger manga card right here. That is a very interesting thing to see just looking at that alone. But, you know, it hasn't been too crazy. I also want to just show you my collector app here, just to kind of show you like how I've been tracking this too. So this has basically been the last month or so. You know, we've been seeing a bit of a decline there. And the last 3 months, okay, that's kind of what it's been looking like. Now, I've got 5 figures in the One Piece TCG stuff. I don't got 6. I'm not crazy, but, you know, I got a hefty amount of stuff in there. And, you know, we can see a bit of a jump down. But the last 6 months, this has been the One Piece TCG, okay? This has been the One Piece TCG market. Just seeing a little bit of a slump right there. But the big picture is that things are not really diving down. So if you're one of the guys out there that's spouting fear or freaking out or wanting to sell because you're worried that the OP13 and EBO3 reprints are going to just destroy your stock, listen, there's so much to look forward to right now. There really is. And by the way, without spoilers and all that sort of stuff, you know, we're getting to the end of Elbaf, which Oda's currently writing, and that's been insane too. I mean, the hype has not died. So, you know, if you're trying to catch up, you're trying to read it, you're trying to watch it, I mean, it's just been a hell of a ride so far, guys, and things have been amazing. So just to quell your fears a little bit, I think the One Piece market is doing A-okay. Things are looking pretty good right now, and, you know, considering how dramatically high things pumped, you know, the dip has been looking really nice. And we were talking about this on the channel too, talking about how EBO3 was probably going to be the peak where people were going to start feeling burnt out and things were going to start dropping, okay? And, of course, we saw that with the boxes when they first came out, the booster boxes, we saw this massive spike because that was where the hype was really starting to peak, and people just had enough of this. We started to see it drop, come all the way back down to its senses, which is great for everybody, and obviously Bandai said they were going to reprint it too, so, So that's the magic of all of this sort of stuff. So now that we've kind of gotten the hopium out of the way, what am I currently looking at? What am I considering now that the market has kind of rescinded a little bit? Things are a little cheaper. What am I considering? So first of all, I have found that the EB03 cards, although they've just come out, are still kind of heated from the bulls of the market. But we have seen the cards start to come down in price. I've been seeing people still trying to sell this Robin for $1,500. Been seeing Boa being sold for about $1,300. But as you can see here, the market price is saying it's around $1,070. Even most recent sales are below $1,000, which is really nice. But things have still been a little hot for the cards, in terms of the price and stuff like that. But thankfully, we are seeing prices rescind. I'll be really honest with you; these are really nice cards, but there's no way in hell I'm paying over $1,000 for one of these, except for Robin. Because I love Robin. And not to mention, the manga card too with Uda. I expected this card to come down in price. Uda's not a main character, but, waifu tax, I guess. I don't know. Maybe some of you are just huge One Piece Red fans. But, yeah. So, just kind of pulling away from EB03, what else am I really looking at here? So obviously, you want to look at the mangas in the One Piece TCG. You want to look at the SPs. You could look at Treasure Cups as well, but, Treasure Cups are interesting. They're just a different beast altogether. But with the manga cards, guys, we have seen prices start to come back, which is really good. Now, the thing is, it's not only just about buying manga cards, which ones will do the best, which ones will probably do the least best. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the main characters are where you really got to look at. You got to look at you got to look at the Chopper from EB01. EB01 is an incredibly rare set to come by. They stopped printing it. EB sets are just low print anyways. The pink box, you know what I'm talking about. Really hard find. Sanji was from PRBO2, another low print set. This card spiked up in price because the set itself is harder to come by, and which we talked about here on the channel a while ago. But take a look at this. In the last 6 months, we've seen it almost double in price because, PRBO2 is becoming harder to find, and this card is still worth about $2,000 US. But let's take a look at Mihawk. Mihawk came out in OP14, completely shit the bed. Now Mihawk is a fan favorite to many. He's a great character. But, I don't know if it was just the look of this character, or just perhaps the market just said, no, we don't really care that much about Mihawk. We saw his price come down by, 25-ish%. It's become a lot more affordable. This card was selling for about $2,300. Now it's kind of come all the way down to $1,200. So, we're seeing a lot of things drop in price. Obviously, Luffy manga cards will be goated. If you can get your hands on any of these cards, that is great, especially this one right here. This was from EB02. As I said earlier, sets hard to come by, and we see that reflected in the prices of these manga cards. This is a very expensive Luffy card next to the Gear 5 Luffy, which of course is also an OG. This kind of goes without saying. But another thing too, which was also a fun experiment, was I bought this card right here, the Gear 4 Luffy, when it first came out. I bought it for about $1,200 Canadian. It completely tanked, went down to $400 or $500, and it's now come all the way back up with the market increasing. So it's kind of proven that Luffy being on the manga card really does help. You can see right here. I literally fell victim to this whole thing, and it went all the way back up, and I'm in the money again. So, Luffy, always a great buy. Getting the Straw Hats is a great buy. Boa, obviously a great buy because it's Boa. Do I have to say anything else? And again, not every manga card is going to have the same kind of effect on its price long term. Just looking at the law, this law from OP05 will obviously be more expensive and more valuable than the law from OP10, which, wasn't really the best set. You can see that with the prices too. So, got to be careful with that. Moving on to SPs. Now, guys, SPs have kind of become the cream of the crop for the One Piece TCG. Obviously, if you can get your hands on some of these cards, that's fantastic. We're not only talking about the gold and silver cards, we're talking about these new... SPs will always keep building on itself. Bandai seems to keep creating newer and newer I guess, versions of what an SP means. You know, example, we had the gold and silver stuff going on for quite a few sets, and now we've kind of entered this, like, really nice looking illustration with gold trims on it and beautiful scenic situations. So we have seen the SPs evolve, and of course these SPs here have changed to these portrait style SPs. So, you know, it's really hard to navigate, I guess, all of this stuff. Like, we've even got leader SPs, like the gold leader cards. Now, these gold leader cards, if you can get some of these, obviously really great buys. They're from EBO2. It was the only set that made gold leader cards, and they're very expensive. Now, obviously, use what I said earlier about the main character stuff to navigate that, because there's some characters that I wouldn't say would do as well. But we've also got, of course, these beautiful backdrop SPs. These are personally my favorite. I do think all of these are good buys. I'm personally trying to get the silver SPs of everybody, which has been incredibly difficult because things are really expensive. But I've also been wanting to get this boa because I have the entire set of PSA 10s for this portrait set style from OP04. And of course, you know, the price just completely boomed. So, you know, if I'm being really honest, guys, like, at the end of the day, if you've been trying to get specific cards, now might be the opportunity, because things will eventually pick up again. I do think things are going to pick up in the next few months. OP15, we've got the big reveal. We've got some crazy stuff. The Enel manga card is coming out. The SPs for that set look great. I mean, let's just quickly take a look here. We've got the Enel manga card, which looks fantastic. Super excited for this. I really do want to get this one because I loved Skypiea, you know, and we've got some new SECs and stuff like that. But you can see here the SPs for this have kind of changed again. We've got more like a full body, but still similar to like the portrait backdrops. As you can see here, you see the similarities there, but they look really cool. They're really nice. We've got another boa. We've got a law here. We've got a Whitebeard, which is really nice. I feel like we haven't been seeing enough Whitebeards, and I think this is the first Whitebeard SP since OP04, if I'm not mistaken. But with this design itself is fantastic. We've got Sabo, and of course Luffy, which will definitely be one of the more expensive ones. So, like, there's a lot of really exciting things that are coming to the One Piece TCG. I could get into the treasure rares too, or sorry, the treasure cups. But, you know, we'll talk about that another time, because treasure cups are, again, they're championship related cards and regionals and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, the card prices are a little different because they're a lot more scarce. I do think they're always good buys if you can get good prices on them. But this is just for a general kind of overview of the market, for like the cards you can actually get from packs and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I don't want to end it there. Sealed product is also probably something you should consider, especially the booster boxes. You know, obviously we see a lot of that with the, you know, the Pokemon TBs and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of people just collect them, hold on to it. So if you're looking for sealed product, guys, now is probably your best chance to get it for a decent price. You know, we saw the prices completely blow out of the water, and we're seeing a bit of a slump now, which is great. You know, every single day I was trying to get OP05, because as you can see there in my little cabinet, I've been kind of keeping them safe because I'm going to be ordering a bunch of acrylic boxes for my sealed boxes. But, you know, as of right now, I still don't really have a full collection. I have OP04, and then from OP06 onward, I have just about everything except for EBO1, EBO2, and PRBO1. I have everything else, which has been really fun, you know, just for my own personal collection, like hobby boxes and stuff like that. A couple of sealed products that I'm sitting on to sell and stuff like that, but, you know, overall, guys, I think if you are trying to add into your collection, now is the time. Or if you're just trying to invest, now is the time. And, of course, you want the OGs. You want OP01. You want OP05, OP09. I think OP11 is definitely a good one. EV sets, PRB sets, all good. And of course, you know, everything in between is debatable, but we always go over a lot of that stuff here. And I apologize if I'm missing something. You know, there's just a lot of information here. But overall, guys, lots of really good things to come for the One Piece market. If you were worried, you shouldn't be. And of course, you got to subscribe to Treasure Theory. Keep up to date to what's going on in the One Piece market. And guys, get excited because great things are coming for the community. All right, guys. Anyways, that's the video right there. Another video should pop up on the screen. If you want to keep watching my ugly face, be sure to click it, and I will see you over there.